to the hype. You guys predicted it. Ravens able to run it all day. It's the pass game that was the non-factor. Lamar with 2 picks and 2 lost fumbles. As the Steelers get the win, they remain the only undefeated team at 7-0. But here is Lamar Jackson on what went wrong yesterday.
The turnovers, I feel, is the reason we lost the game. I put that on me. The start of the game, the first drive, a pick 6. Then we drive to the red zone, a fumble. Got to get the ball out quick because we know they're dominant up front. And then a pick off the player from the flat, throwing at the mark. Got to clean those up, and I feel we won that game. So that's all to it.
If we only did the last 4 different things, we would have won. Michael Vick joining us now. Michael, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Let me ask you this. Do you think the league has finally caught up to Lamar Jackson?
No, I don't think the league will ever catch up with Lamar Jackson. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers got very fortunate yesterday. Mike Tomlin takes advantage of games like this when he has a lot of time to study for a guy like Lamar Jackson and their scheme. He probably put a lot of time into it. I know he did put a lot of time into stopping what Lamar Jackson was going to do to him yesterday. And, I don't think that if this was any other team, the Baltimore Ravens win. But, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're strong on defense. Mike Tomlin builds a scheme that can stop, any type of run scheme. And that's what the Baltimore Ravens hang their hat on. So, it was. I knew it was going to be a difficult game for Lamar. I think he stated the obvious in his post-game press conference that the turnovers played a key factor. We don't have to get into that. Anytime you turn the ball over, you got to make it up. And when you throw pick 6s to the house, it's just hard to overcome that. But I think in the end, the scheme that the Pittsburgh Steelers run obviously makes it tough for Lamar Jackson. And they knew what they was getting coming into this game. A tough Pittsburgh Steelers defense that was going to do everything they could to stop the run.
Yeah, Mike, I think that Lamar did a good job of owning his mistakes. You can never turn the ball over the way he did and expect to win. We know who this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is. They're a zone blitzing team. They confuse a lot of quarterbacks. But I think this is more on Greg Roman than it is Lamar Jackson. What they asked this quarterback to do since he's been in the NFL is hand the ball off, run the ball, then play action. Like, that's what makes them good. If you go back and watch all the games that they've won, that's what they do. But when they're losing and they're behind and they have to spread the ball out and throw it, a lot of people ask, well, why does this guy look this way? Well, because he's not being developed. Because there's no identity in the passing game. I love Greg Roman as a play caller, but he has to overcome this thing that he has with Lamar Jackson and a lot of his players where they put them in a box, say, this is what we're going to do well. Well, you also have to game plan and build a system for when things aren't going well. Sometimes we need to go and spread. I don't know if they're getting enough reps in practice to develop this side of Lamar and this passing game. And then another thing you got to look at is the personnel. Like, who's out there really like, this is the guy, dominant number 1. I like Hollywood Brown, but is he the guy that can move the chains drive after drive after drive? So I love Lamar Jackson taking ownership in his mistakes. He got to be better. If he doesn't throw those 2 picks, they win the game. But Greg Roman has to develop this passing game.
And those 2 picks, the first one came at 0-0, start the game. Second straight week, the Steelers have started the game with a pick 6. And the second one came first drive of the second half when Baltimore was up 17-7. So it wasn't even in a situation where, like, Pittsburgh knew they were going to pass. They were bad mistakes by Lamar. And then Lamar's fumble when they were trying to come back at the end, obviously, was a killer. I don't think the league has caught up to Lamar. If I were a Baltimore fan, though, I would be highly concerned that the best teams have. This graphic I'm about to show you is jarring, and I don't know what the workaround of it is. Just take us from Lamar's first playoff game to right now. 6 games, either in the playoffs against the Chiefs or against the other best team in your division, the Steelers. 1-5, 13 turnovers in those 6 games. In the other 18 games, 17-1, 52-7 touchdown to turnover ratio, and the passer rating is damn near double. That graphic right there would terrify me, Wilds, because we know that Lamar can cause absolute mayhem for any team that is not the upper crust of the league. He can make professionals look like collegiate kids. We've seen him do it since the first start when he took over from Flacco in 2018. But his record right now in the biggest spots against the best teams, and not just the win-loss record, but his actual statistical record, is highly concerning, especially when you put it up against the nearly flawless win-loss record and statistical record against everybody else.
Sure. But don't you think the Steelers are getting the short end of the stick here, the Steelers defense? Brandon, you're America's #1 Steelers fan, and you came on at the beginning of the show, you're like, probably downgrading the Steelers. Lamar was giving the ball away. I feel like the Steelers defense, Mike, needs some credit. Lamar's not just handing them the ball, they're forcing these turnovers. Unless I'm reading it in a different way where you see it as like, no, those are all Lamar. I thought they were great plays by the Steelers defense.
Absolutely. That's what I was saying. I reiterated again. The Steelers scheme and Mike Tomlin and the way he's built this defense and having a chance to watch the Baltimore Ravens over the last 2 years and what they like to do, they're not going to get away from what they do. They won't deviate from that. If anything, they might add a little wrinkle here and there. But they're going to pretty much do what's worked and what's been successful for them. And they, like I said, things may look different, but for the most part, they just got to line up and play their defense. And that's what they hang their hat on. So, you know, it was mano a mano, us versus you, and we'll get it. We show y'all we can get it done, and that's what happened. So, you know, the Steelers get up for these type of games, man. Trust me, I know I've been in that locker room.
100%. But Wilds, when I look at this pick here, what I see is Lamar just, like, that's just a bad throw. That's a bad decision. It's not like they were out schemed here where, you know, he came back to a second or third read and he just quickly threw it and he didn't see the guy.
Right.
Like that first one is to me, he's like, I wish I had that one back. Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers are known for their zone blitzing defense and confusing the quarterback. But at the same time, when you look at how Lamar played and the decisions he made in those moments, I think that's more about him than it is the defense.
Okay.
It hurt the team.
Brandon, I got a question. I got a question for you, Brandon. After Lamar's unanimous MVP season and then the playoff game going the way it went, I think everyone kind of knew in the regular season there were going to be very few big moments for Lamar. That it was almost assuredly going to be, whether he duplicated his MVP season or not, he was going to be graded on how he plays in the postseason. And that is still yet to be seen. But if you were going to kind of underline a few games on the schedule, the game against the Chiefs, and then, as it turned out, the game against the undefeated Steelers would be the two you underlined. Yeah. What's your level of concern for the Ravens offense as a whole, whether it's Lamar, Greg Roman, a combination, whatever it is, that in those two biggest games since the playoff letdown, they've looked the way they've looked?
A 10, because the standard there in Baltimore and the goal in there for the Baltimore Ravens is to win a Super Bowl. They're not built to win a Super Bowl because of the offense. Like, you're asking Lamar to run two different offenses, you know, different times of the game. What makes them successful is this running offense, play action. But then you're asking them to go into spread. Our offense with Coach Shanahan out in Denver, we ran a very simple offense, West Coast. So we went eye right, eye left, very simple. We went stretch right, stretch left, play action right, play action left. That was our offense. You never saw us in 5 wide. That wasn't our identity. So it's very confusing to really ask a guy to run two different type of offenses in different moments of the game. And it's only when they're behind. So he's only getting a few reps at this. So yes, Lamar needs to continue to develop, but Greg Roman needs to too. There's two sides to this, and we got to make sure it's a balanced conversation, because Lamar Jackson